Iron Man 2020 issue 6 finds the robot resistance shocked to learn Arno was right about the Extinction Entity event. Arno never doubted himself, but he cannot do anything since his suit is too damaged, so now it's up to Tony, but he needs his brother to listen to him. Tony tells him this is his fight though, since his entire life has been based around it. Arno knows his God-Killer armor is destroyed, but Tony reminds him that he's Tony Stark, his brother and a damn good fixer of things, especially armor, and all Arno needs to do is trust him. Arno does, so Tony gives him some of the holographic armor he has, which begins rebuilding the armor better than before. Arno knows he never should have doubted his brother, and he won't forget that Tony was there in the nick of time. The Extinction Event breaches the station, sucking the resistance out as the new and improved Iron Man of 2020 tells the people he needs their help, since without them, they cannot win. Rescue says that Arno finally sounds like a Stark, but Tony knows he sounds like an Iron Man, joining his brother as they charge the entity for Earth. As they charge, Herbie, Awesome Andy, Machine Smith, and Dr. Shapiro's cat armor are destroyed. The heroes make it to the robot monstrosity, putting all of their power into their jet boosters and begin pushing the entity down into Earth's atmosphere, causing friction between the atmosphere and the being, making it burn up on re-entry. Arno knows a larger army would be helpful, and luckily, Tony has made a few calls as back on Earth, the Avengers and other Earth's mightiest heroes battle the entity's tentacles, trying to stall the being as long as they can, as the being begins assimilating some people on the ground. Arno knows their big guns won't buy them enough time, but Tony says that they aren't the big guns, as Bethany, Andy and Rhodey pilot the giant controller, Ultimo and Iron Mech in defense of the city. Tony asks his brother what they need to do, but Arno knows he won't approve, so he blasts his brother with his repulsors, flying directly into the entity's maw, slowly assimilated by the entity, as it says that Arno has achieved nothing. Arno knows that's not true, since he got inside before the being assimilated him, and he spent his entire life becoming the entity's poison pill, a paradox with a human who is more than AI at heart, and an AI cursed with ego and frailty of that of a human. As the entity explodes, Arno tells it that the God-Killer was never the armor, it was the man, and it was him. In the aftermath, Tony finds Arno falling through the sky, catching his brother, and telling Arno that he cleared the infection from Earth and saved all of human and machine kind. Arno knows that it was all worth it, since for a plan to work he had to deceive his brother and make him believe he was an AI, so he could have all of his resources, so he could combat the entity. He hopes Tony can forgive him, and Tony does, since in the end he ended up saving the entire Earth. Tony traps Arno in a bubble, however, putting him in a coma and hoping that he can forgive him for what he needs to do, as it's revealed the Extinction Entity never came to Earth, and it was all an augmented reality hologram made to fool both human and machine-like senses. Tony says the entity never existed, and it was Arno's personal extinction event, the disease that he was born with, which he thought he had cured. However, he merely abated the symptoms, and it was still going to kill him in 2020. Because of this, the disease ate away at his mind, and there was no way to convince him that it wasn't real, so Tony played to his delusion, and when he gave Arno the holographic armor that was made from Escape, it gave him life support and put his mind into Escape, where he will survive and thrive. His robotic parents find that monstrous, but Tony knows it's better that he lives in a newer version of the iron lung he spent his childhood in than knowing the truth. He knows that they raise a good point though, since his genius will allow him to figure out that it is a simulation sooner or later. That is, unless he's not alone in there and he had people like his parents with him. Howard and Maria know that if they download themselves into the program, they can give Arno the life he wanted with a destiny fulfilled, and it could be a fresh start and a new beginning for the two parents. Later at a Senate hearing, Sunset Bane admits to being the one behind the scheme to make Tony Stark look like an AI, sure to call herself a genius for pulling his and the robot resistance strings, demanding it go on record that despite being locked up in prison, she indeed won the battle. At the Uncanny Valley bar, Aaron loves the fact that Jocasta used her obedience OS on Sunset to get her to admit to all of that, but wonders if forcing a now artificial being to do that violates Jocasta's belief that AIs have free will. Jocasta says it does, but also Sunset is a real bitch, so who cares? At Stark Unlimited, Rhodey is put in one of the regen pods to help fix the minor deviations in his genetic code that caused his phobia about getting back in the War Machine armor. Tony meanwhile shores things up with Carol, saying that they are past her killing him, since while he did technically die, it didn't stick and he did eventually come back. He warns Rhodey that this is a one-time fix, so if it were to happen again, his cells would degrade further. Leaving with Janet, Tony wonders if James and Carol are still a thing, but Janet is only genuinely interested in what is in store for her and him, wondering if since Tony was fixed by the regen pod, does that mean that fixed their relationship? Tony has no idea, but he looks forward to finding out as later Tony dons his new armor, asking Friday if he wants to take it for a spin, but the AI tells him to go nuts since she's not his mother and even his co-pilot anymore, and besides, she's off the clock and heading to Robo Karaoke. Andy comes to see Tony, telling him that everything is ready for his public unveiling of Stark Unlimited, but Tony tells him that it's all up to him now, revealing that Stark Unlimited is no more since he has given everything to Andy, revealing the company is now called Bang Robotics. Andy is at a loss for words, but is grateful for it all, asking what Tony is going to do now. Taking off from the building, Tony says that he's done with 2020 and he doesn't live in the now, since he's Tony Stark, the Iron Man of the future. Iron Man 2020 issue 6 was a real letdown of a final issue for this event, but also for Dan Slott and Christos Gage's time on the book. The whole issue basically throws everything that happened over the course of the event out, and with the previous issues of Iron Man in favor of what I assume was the writers thinking it was a clever twist, in that it was all just part of the plan. The problem with that is that there is no hints at it before this issue, and nothing that alludes to the fact that Tony was aware of everything and kind of playing his brother. On top of that, it completely undoes the really genuinely interesting concept that Rhodey has PTSD of getting back in the War Machine suit, and they just wave it away by quote-unquote fixing his mental illness with a regen pod, which will never be seen again since it's one of those devices that it's really damn good, and if it does that, why can't it do all these other things? But we'll never see that device again. Could this issue have suffered from the current pandemic situation and was indeed cut down, because the issue did feel like it went by very, very quickly? It's definitely a possibility, but I can only talk for what I read on the page, and what I read wasn't very good. At least Pete Woods' art was really nice and consistent throughout the event. I'm going to give this issue a 4 out of 10.